Like notes through the air. These are songs of our lives. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Songs of Our Lives. I'm Brad Rose. I'm an artist, composer, a writer, the founder of Foxy, Digitalis, and somebody who thinks about music and sound far more than is healthy. Each week, I invite on a guest to talk about the music and sound that has meant a lot to them and left its mark. Previous guests include Myriam Gendron, Shane Parrish, Ilya Somed, Seth Parker Woods, Anna Butters, Natasha Pikowicz, Jan Novak, Colado Negro. I could go on and on and on and on. Like literally, there's 40 something of them. But this week, I am over the moon to have David Grubbs, who genuinely doesn't really need an introduction. But the occasion of this episode is he's got an incredible new duo album coming out with Loren Connors on Room 40 called Evening Air. It's their second record together, and it's a stunning record. It's beautiful. I don't even know, man. There's something about it. Like these two guys together there's a magic to it. They both play piano on it, which is great. Loren playing piano it's like a new-ish thing, at least that I'm aware of. I don't remember the first time I heard it, but it wasn't that long ago. And I just found it incredibly moving. And in this context, together with David, I don't know. It's a hell of a record, you guys. And I'm grateful that Lawrence English of Room 40 kind of pushed them to make a new one because the world needed it. And in 2024, the world really needs it. So David is a perfect guest for this. We had an absolute blast doing this. If you're in Europe, be on the lookout. He's going to be playing shows over the next many months while he is doing a residency in Berlin. And then again, Evening Air is out on August 30th via Room 40. Do yourself a favor, pick up a copy. But anyway, like I said, we recorded this, I don't know, about a month ago maybe, and it was such a good time. So I hope you all enjoy it. My guest today is a musician, a composer, a writer, a guitarist, an educator. I could go on and on. It's David Grubbs. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much.
So you've always got many things going on, of course, but specifically we're going to talk about real quick the new album with Loren Connors, Evening Air, which is out on August 30th on Room 40. So it's been almost over 20 years since the first record now, right?
Yeah, I think it's almost exactly 20 years. Maybe the first one was 2003. So yeah, 20 wow. Plus one or 20 and change.
So what made the timing right for like now to make another record?
It really came at the invitation of Lawrence English, who runs the Room 40 label. And Lawrence was a big fan of Arbor Vitae, which was the first record that Loren and I made, in which I play piano on, I guess, 3 of the 5 tracks on Arbor Vitae. Mm-hmm. And that had always been a favorite record of Lawrence English's. And so he had the idea that we should make a second duo record, like check in 20 years later. He wanted to make sure that I was playing piano. But the interesting thing is that Loren Connors has been playing piano in public and on recordings more. I had this incredible experience not long before recording the album of going to see Loren play. He was playing with Alan Curtis, the guitarist in the band Reynolds. And I walked into the venue, 411 Kent, and was just kind of chatting with people before they opened up the performance space, and just thinking like, oh, what is this really fantastic piano music? What's this record that, like, what is the pre-recorded music that they're playing? And sure enough, and I look in the corner and it's Loren, sitting by himself at the piano, right? Because Yeah, yeah. And I think I'd been in this space for 10 minutes, sort of like, you know, hearing this very, very quiet, spare, single note, very ruminative piano playing. And then, yeah, to discover that it was Loren actually playing the piano was incredible. So, yeah, so we had the loose idea that we would switch off on piano. And so on Evening Air, I play piano on the 2 long tracks on the first side of the record. Loren plays piano on 3 shorter tracks on the second side of the record, and we have a couple of guitar duets and one piece in which Loren put the guitar down, and I guess it was a challenge, although I didn't intend it as such, where there was a drum set set up in the recording studio, and I'd kind of joked around with him like, are you playing drums on this session? And sure enough, in one of the guitar duos, he put down the guitar and wandered over to the drums. Not mic'd. Wow. I mean, there were room mics up, so you can hear the drums just fine. But it's a great quality, only capturing them from the room mics, right? So
yeah.
Not kind of like under the microscope.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so
that's amazing.
It may be Loren's debut of playing drum kit on an album.
Well, hey, maybe the next one it'll be who knows what, it'll be a drum
duet.
Yeah,
Loren and me,
drum and violin, maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there you go. All right, okay. Well, you can produce it.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I remember I don't remember when I first heard some of Loren's piano playing, but I was so struck by Loren's been one of my favorite guitar players since I think I first heard him maybe in 94, 95. I was 16 years old, and had never heard anything like that, because it was, I was 16 years old living in Oklahoma and just ordering random things out of mail order catalogs.
Yeah.
And that was when it was Loren Mazzacane Connors. And I thought, oh, Mazzacane, that sounds cool. What's this?
Yeah, right.
Just
yeah,
mind blown.
I first heard Loren because my friend Bundy, who I was in Gastro del Sol with, worked at a record store in Chicago called Dr. Wax, and a used copy of Guitar Roberts in Pittsburgh, which Jim and I then reissued on Dexter's Cigar as Loren Mazzacane Connors in Pittsburgh. It was just sitting in the racks used for $3 or $4, and that's absolutely one of my favorite records of all time.
Yeah. Do you all have any shows planned for around the release or anything?
We don't. So I'm going to Berlin for 4 months for the fall. I have a fellowship at the American Academy there. So all of my shows for this foreseeable future are in Berlin, or just a train ride away from there. But yeah, hopefully in the spring, Loren and I will play again.
But yeah, I was going to ask, do you have any specific Berlin plans yet, or is it still coming together?
I have a bunch of shows booked, sharing a bill with Riley Walker, doing 2 nights with Jan St. Ferner. Jan and I started a second album about a year ago that a lot of what I'll be working on in Berlin is this next record with Jan.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I'm supposed to be writing the next book. I mean, that's my job with the fellowship.
Sure. Well, Berlin seems like a good place to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I could talk to you about collaboration and stuff for an hour, because I don't know that anybody seems to collaborate more than you do, which I love.
Thank you. That's what the next book is about.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, that's perfect. Yeah. But to not stretch this out forever, we will get into the whole reason we're here, and we're going to talk about a bunch of music. And we're going to start, as ever, with, what is the first song you remember?
Yeah, I mean, apart maybe from nursery rhymes and children's songs, the first song that I remember hearing more than once in our house was the Carpenters, and my guess was that "Top of the World" was maybe the song that I remember best from that. There wasn't a lot of pop music in the house when I was growing up. I think my mother had 5 or 6 albums, So, like a Carpenter's record and the soundtrack to Cass Elliott's television special, Don't Call Me Mama Anymore. And, The Fifth Dimension and a couple of things like that. Like I was born in 1967. So like, what would have been kind of semi-easy listening pop music circa like 1972 or 73. And Carpenters. I mean, that probably my first earworm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom is huge. I don't know what my mom listens to anymore, but she was a huge Carpenters fan. Like I have a lot of really distinct memories of hearing the Carpenters like when I was a kid. And I think I still have this very like positive visceral reaction to Karen Carpenter's voice. It feels like this kind of warm hug or something.
Yeah, I can't think of the last time. I mean, I'm not sure that I've ever actively put on a Carpenter's record after the age of 7 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I've got very positive feelings about the Carpenters. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's inflected a little bit by, the tragedy of Karen Carpenter.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't know if you've ever seen the Todd Haynes Superstar, Karen Carpenter biopic with Barbie dolls. I saw that when I was a freshman in college in the fall of 1985. I guess right before Mattel Toys, threatened him. But it played at DC Space, and that's a pretty incredible movie.
You said that there wasn't a lot of pop music in the house growing up. Was there other music, like classical music or anything, like when you were like a lot of music in the house?
Yeah, and not a lot of music in the house. I mean, my dad would like put on classical music, to read to after dinner. E. Power Biggs plays the great organs of Europe and things like that. Or no, I think it was. I looked it up a couple of years ago because I was trying to remember. It was Helmut Walke plays the great organs of Europe. But I think, E. Power Biggs was another like Bach on the organ,
right,
kind of guy. All of that changed though when I was 9 or 10. My mother's younger sister, who was like my cool hippie aunt, moved in. Like she'd gone back to graduate school, studying to be a medical technician, and lived in our house. And so she brought all of her records with her. So it was through her that I first heard Bob Dylan, but also Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. Awesome. Kind of eclectic tastes, Janis Joplin, stuff like that. But I just remember her, smoking Eve cigarettes and, being in the room that she was staying in was like being in a completely different universe.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What is a song that either makes you cry or makes you feel those kind of feelings if it doesn't actually make you cry?
I'm kind of a weeper to start with, so it doesn't, and sometimes it's the song, sometimes I don't know, like I would say that I weep from intensity of feeling, not necessarily from like sorrowful feelings, like I get moved to tears, by being overwhelmed when I'm really happy. I mean that really, I'm in touch with my feelings like that, I guess. But I thought about, so you had asked this question, and the first thing that came to mind, so my answer was Myriam Gendron's "Go Away from My Window," so the cover of the John Jacob Niles song, because so when her previous records, she has a new record called Mayday that I have to say I haven't listened to, because I started listening to the first song of it and felt like this is going to be an emotional roller coaster, and that was like a month ago, and I was like, I'll get back to it. I don't know. There's just something, her simplicity and just the kind of, I mean, I was going to say like flat, unemotional quality. That's not quite right, but the stoic quality of her way of handling a song I find incredibly moving and just like really
Yes.
satisfying. Really just like I I I don't know her. I haven't seen her perform. I've just been really floored by her records, and they really mean
Yeah.
a lot to me. And Go Away From My Window, what an amazing song. So
Right.
um you know, I know that you've had my Louisville compatriot Sarah Hennies
Yes.
on this show before, and Sarah and I have talked about this song. So it was written by John Jacob Niles, who was a song collector who was from Louisville, Kentucky. Um, uh, in fact, interestingly, most of the kids that I knew who were like into theater when I was in middle school and high school, so like Will Oldham and Ned Oldham, and even Dave Pajo at one point, were in this youth theater group called Walden Theater that was run by Nancy Niles Sexton, who was
Oh
John Jacob
wow.
Niles' granddaughter. And I know that Sarah Hennies went to the same high school that John Jacob Niles did, although probably 90 years later or
Right.
something like that. John Jacob Niles was a song collector, and his claim was that "Go Away From My Window" was the very first song that he wrote.
Oh, I
Which
didn't know that.
yeah. I mean, again, it's just as simple as it can be. It's really just such a perfect song. Bob Dylan has covered it. Joan Baez has covered it.
Yeah.
Tons of people have covered it.
Yeah. No, so I had Myriam on the show couple months ago.
Oh,
and
I should listen to that.
Yeah, it was, well, she put this idea out there, talking about, like, she was questioning me, and I was like, oh, okay, I like this. She's pushing back on the idea. She's like, there's difference between like a song and the performance. Like,
Yes.
the song is something else, the performance, and so, like, we talked a lot about that, and this is a great example. Like, because like I said, there's so many different performances or covers or versions of this song, and I don't know that I have like this. I think this one is the one that makes me react the most emotionally. It gets to me the most, and I think it's just, there's something about her, like you said, her delivery and her. I mean, even honestly, on this song, before the singing even starts, just the way she's arranged it for guitar and like the guitar melody and stuff. The hairs on the back of my neck stand up.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's just, I'm a huge fan of hers, and I think
what you've described though is a really kind of important point to make, though, that we're talking about several things simultaneously.
Yes.
Right? We're talking about the compositions, we're talking about specific performances, and we're talking about recordings, where the production also plays a role in like making your hair stand up.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like all of the, and I mean, and it often, things will come up on the show where, it's a specific version of, it's like, oh, this live version of like Donny Hathaway doing this song, not this. And there's something about that moment that just speaks to people or whatever. And again, I find all those things really fascinating, and seeing just, what people connect with and how, and, but yeah, Myriam, and good luck getting through the new record. It is an emotional.
Maybe after this conversation, I'll have the strength to listen to it. I don't know. I put it on, actually, also, I mean, talking about the different elements that go into one's emotional response to a song. I was listening to it on headphones, like on the street, and somehow, it was too close. This new one, and sort of thinking like, am I ready for something that commands my attention, right? And that really may pull me apart emotionally. Right. And maybe I'll listen to it on speakers. I think that there is such, for me, there's such it's such a different experience listening on headphones.
Totally agree.
Listening at home versus being out in public. I think also I was, walking down DeKalb Avenue in Brooklyn, and, I think that I was not, ready, willing, and, well, I was able, but ready or willing to burst into tears on this, or, or to like, to like, have this like strong emotional experience while I'm walking down the street in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, no,
I'll do this at home.
Yes, it is a very much, I think I think I relate to that because when the first single came out, which the name is escaping me, but it's one of the songs with Marisa Anderson and Jim White on it, and I'd gotten like a promo email or something, so I was in my car waiting to pick up my daughter, and so I put it on. I was like, nope. no need my daughter to get in the car, and I'm just weeping.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, okay. Well, on the flip side, what is a song that will put you in a better mood?
Oh my God, Bob Dylan's "I Want You," like that.
Yes.
Maybe I feel like that was the easiest answer.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, yeah, in like it's like name that tune. You know, like when somebody names that tune in one note, you know, it's just like that, like happy harmonica, instrumental intro to "I Want You." Yeah, I mean, Blonde on Blonde, obviously,
right?
Not one of my favorite records, and one of the records that I've enjoyed pretty much as long as I've enjoyed music, or you know, like enjoyed records. Like that record is a pretty faithful companion, I would say. And "I Want You," I don't know, just like the mood of it. It again, it's not even. I mean, the song is kind of like giddy and charismatic, and you know, like I mean, the lyrics will put me in a better mood, but just it's the performance and it's the arrangement. What a lovely piece of music.
Like within the first 5 seconds, you're just smiling, and you know it's gonna be okay. Was that a record that your aunt turned you on to? You said she
Yeah, she didn't have Blonde on Blonde. She had Highway 61 Revisited and like the Columbia Bob Dylan Greatest Hits, you know, like the blue one with him in profile. Yep. But it was pretty easy for me to sniff out Blonde on Blonde. Right. Yeah. I don't know, when I was probably from age 11 or 12, I had this book called the Rolling Stone, you know, greatest 200 albums of all time. That was sort of when people talk about their sense of a canon. That was a little bit my sense of like, oh, all of these critics voted on these, and you know, Sgt. Pepper's was number 1, but interestingly, like the Clash's self-titled record was number 21. I mean, this is a book that I probably haven't looked at since I was 13 years old, but like baseball statistics, I could probably cite to you a lot of the, and I believe that, you know, Blonde on Blonde was like number 5 or number 6 or something like that.
Can't go wrong. I have a lot of memories. So my mom, like I said, my mom was really into the Carpenters. My dad was very much into Dylan, and I have memories of, and I've talked about this before, but staying on Sunday mornings, my mom would take me and my sister to church. My dad didn't go to church. And so, like, if we were sick, we got to stay home. So I would fake being sick all the time, because whenever I'd stay home with my dad on Sunday mornings, he would just be playing like his records while paying bills or something. And Dylan was like a big mainstay. And recently, like, he and my mom retired last year, and so they're kind of downsizing. And I inherited all his. Well, I didn't take all his records because he had a lot of stuff I didn't want, but like all his Dylan records, I took. And it's kind of one of, you know, I have them, you know, in a special part of my record collection, and it feels like this sort of holy grail thing that I own. But this Blonde on Blonde is, I don't know, one of my favorite records ever made, which, you know, that's not original, but still.
But it's objectively,
right.
Yeah, true. I mean, one thing I'll say about Dylan was that when my aunt was rhapsodizing about Dylan to me, and I was 12 or 13 years old, the thing that she would focus on, and I know this is such a boomer thing to focus on, was, you know, like, he was so young, you know, like he had written all of these songs by the time he was 22, and he was our Shakespeare and stuff like that. And so my first opportunity to see Dylan perform in real time on television was when he performed Gotta Serve Somebody at the Grammys.
Wow.
And he's probably not even 40 years old, but he just looked, I mean, it was also the sort of like stern Christian message of that song.
Right.
You know, that like I was intrigued, but I mean, he just seemed like a grizzled old man at that point, you know. in 19 I don't know, 79 or something like that. And yeah. But it wasn't until a couple of years after that, in first seeing the Pennebaker film Don't Look Back, that like it was like, oh, I get it, because he is so young and he's such a punk and he's so brilliant, but he also does these sort of like punk mistakes, he's really like, he'll make you cringe in that movie as he's kind of like bragging, like, anybody know the poet Allen Ginsberg? He's a friend of mine. It's just like, he just seems really immature, like, brilliant and really immature.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I felt like I finally got where she was coming from once I finally saw Don't Look Back.
Right. That makes sense. Well, Blonde on Blonde is objectively great, but what is objectively the greatest song of all time?
All right. So I looked back over my answers today, and I looked at this, and I was like, "What?"
Crack me up! I love this answer.
Nobody has said Van Dyke Parks is number 9 before.
Not yet. No.
With a few of these songs, I felt like that they could have been. Each of these songs could have been the answer to a number of different categories. Sure. So number 9, I have this. So for people who don't know about it, it's Van Dyke Parks's maybe his first single.
I think it was his first thing. Yeah, I was looking at that. First single.
And it's his version of the Hymn to Joy or Ode to Joy from Beethoven's Ninth. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. You would think that I would have my facts straight about objectively the best song of all time. It's such a crazy, wild, it's, I don't know, baseball metaphor, swinging for the fences with your first time at bat as a rookie. Yep. It's like, oh, I'll cover Beethoven.
It's completely bananas. This is the first thing I'm going to do.
Yeah, but it's a song that always puts me in a better mood. It's a song that has made me cry previously, but sort of like, getting choked up just because of the sheer optimism of it. I think of myself as like as a very fortunate person. I'm also a very optimistic person, and these things are kind of tied up. That I'm a very hopeful person, and this is one of the most hopeful songs that I can think of. I don't know. It's just so beautiful. Yeah.
I mean, there's to me, there's this, when you think about it being his first single, and you're going to cover one of the greatest piece of music ever written, the most known, like the audacity of it is, I have so much admiration for it. And then like, it's like swinging for the fences on your first at bat, and then like hitting a grand slam. Cause it's so, like, it's, I don't know. It feels so improbable that there's like this, I don't know, magic to it, that it's like, there's no way this should have worked like this.
Yeah. I mean, it has a brass fanfare. It has a really great banjo part. It's sung in both English and German. It's under 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It is objectively the best song of all time.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Like I wouldn't go to the mat arguing that.
Sure.
And I think that I don't believe in things like a best song of all time, or but on the day that I sat down to think about these songs with the prompts that you provided, that's the one that,
there you go.
Yeah. That's how I cast my vote.
Yeah. And full disclosure, even though it's my questionnaire, I don't believe they're in an objectively greatest song either. I just like to see how people answer it.
Yeah. No, objectively is a really great prompt, though, because I think objectively allows people to imagine the opposite of objectively. Exactly. It's like, I mean, it ironizes the question. Yeah,
yes,
it makes it clear that the question isn't
Yeah.
Yeah, utterly sincere.
Right. Okay. Well, how about what's a song that you used to love, but either heard it recently or you think about it now and it doesn't quite do it for you like it once did?
Yeah, that's a super interesting question, because it was very easy for me to come up with examples of things that are just like super meaningful, and I just want to make sure that everybody out there in podcast land has heard this, and if you haven't, like, stop what you're doing and listen to Van Dyke Parks is number 9 now. So I feel like I'm not here to diss anybody,
right?
And I don't know, like, yeah, but I guess the thing that led me to the Replacements' Answering Machine, the last song on Let It Be, was the fact that I really did love the Replacements album Let It Be when I was in high school, when I was in the band Squirrel Bait. The Replacements and Husker Du were just like, that was just like the greatest music, just like sheerly inspiring, and just like great songwriting, really like fabulous singing. And Answering Machine, I really liked because as somebody who just like at heart really am a minimalist, that it's a kind of coda to this album. It's just electric guitar and voice. It almost feels like it was. It has a demo quality, and like think of all of those songs that were demoed to answering machines,
right?
And Let It Be, as I remember, is just like a very, very beautifully realized album, and the fact that there was this kind of incomplete song at the end of it. I think it's just Paul Westerberg, I thought it was an incredible song. And I don't know, like, I haven't gone back to the Replacements. I don't know, like, when Tim came out, I was just like, wow, I just felt like the well had kind of run dry, and Pleased to Meet Me. Yeah. Like,
right.
I don't know, like I went from being, really, sign me up for the Replacements fan club to just feeling like it was diminishing returns. Sorry, Paul Westerberg. And he is one of these people that, like, every 10 years or so, I'll ask somebody, like, what happened to Paul Westerberg? Like, he seemed so talented.
Right.
Yeah. Again, I feel shitty even like talking like again. It's not my intention to run anybody down, but rather to say that this is a song that really, like, I loved, and then I mean, it's pretty easy to keep up with people with what they're doing in music now, so more than ever. Like, doesn't cost anything to, like, check in on some band that you cared a lot about when you were in high school, and like, oh, what are those people doing now? But Paul Westerberg, I have no idea what he's done for the last 25 or 30 years.
No, it's always interesting, like, talking about like the Tim reissue and stuff, when there's something like, I wasn't a big Replacements fan, but like I've had things where like a reissue or something comes out and I think, like, oh, I should be excited about this because I loved this back, and then, but kind of have that feeling of just like, I don't know. I always think that's it. Like a band that, again, not to rain on anyone's parade, like, when I was in high school, absolutely obsessed with Love Pavement. And when like the reissues started coming out, that was something I thought I'd be really excited about, but I was like, I kind of had my moment and it was really meaningful to me then, but I think I'm not going to, I don't feel the need to go back there. So I can relate to that. Anyway, on to better things. So we're going to skip over to do you consider yourself a romantic?
Sure. Why not? I mean, isn't everybody?
Well, what is the most romantic song?
I mean, the Modern Lovers are the most romantic group for me in my book.
I can see
just
that.
Like putting it all out there. And I think I could pick almost any song from the first Modern Lovers record, but Astral Plane is the one that came to mind. I don't know. I just had this moment. Again, it's a little bit like when you pick up the thread on a particular record,
Mm-hmm.
like when you first hear it. So I think I heard the Modern Lovers when I was 17 years old. And also in the context of, I'd mainly for the last couple of years prior to that been listening to hardcore punk, the super like aggressive stuff. And feelings came a bit more to the fore, listening to Who's doing the Replacements, and also I really liked Leonard Cohen and stuff like that. And the Modern Lovers, I don't just like the incredible bravery of Jonathan Richman, just kind of like, wow, like what a complete original. Like somebody give that guy like a Lifetime Achievement Award or MacArthur Genius Grant or something like that.
No kidding.
Yeah. In the Todd Haynes Velvet Underground documentary that came out last year, he was so captivating and so funny. Like I think I was not the only person who thought like I would really like to see a documentary about Jonathan Richman talking about the Velvet Underground. Just like let him talk for 4 hours about the Velvet Underground. And the Modern Lovers, it came up recently, like 3 or 4 months ago. My partner and I were visiting friends who have a place in upstate New York, and like a nice kind of barn to hang out in, and we were drinking, and it was a Saturday night. But I'm not sure that I was going to say we definitely don't have the same musical tastes. Like my wife is a lawyer who works for Brooklyn Legal Services, and it was people who we knew through like law and social justice, like not music people, not artists, and they always say like drinking in the bar, and they're always like, David, put on some music, like you're a musician, put on some music. And it's like, I don't know, you don't want me to put on Merzbow or Eliana Radin, just like, what I might listen to by myself is maybe different from, what we should be listening to. And for whatever reason, the hand of fate or of chance, like had me like, oh, we'll listen to the Modern Lovers. And it was just the perfect soundtrack once again. Just like, it's just like, it's so undiminished.
That was what, like, listening to that, because I can't remember the last time I listened to this, and it kind of sent me down this whole rabbit hole of like, oh, I just want to listen to like Modern Lovers now. But it struck me how it still sounds like so contemporary. Like it sounds like it could have come out last year.
Yeah.
And that's remarkable.
Yeah. I mean, it's flawless, and beyond being flawless, it's just so moving and so funny. And yeah, he's such a weirdo, and he's so brave. I don't know. Ernie Brooks, who played bass in the Modern Lovers, is somebody who's around New York, and like I've played in versions of In C with him, and I've had a few conversations with him. He's somebody that you see at gigs, but like I just wouldn't even know what to say to him about the Modern Lovers. It's just like you played on the Modern Lovers album. Like, wow.
Yeah. No, this is great stuff. And the Jonathan Richman stuff, like even in the Velvet Underground doc, release the outtakes. I just want to see the whole like the unabridged film of him talking about it for however long, because that was really.
Yeah, they should make an IMAX movie out of that, like a 4-hour IMAX movie of Jonathan Richman talking about the Velvet Underground.
Hey, we might be the only 2 people there, but I will be on opening night. Okay, well, what is a song that changed your perspective on an artist, either for better or for worse?
Oh, I'm not sure that I answered that question.
Oh, did we not answer that?
No. Oh. I'm not sure that I got that question.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, then never mind.
Okay.
We'll just cut that part out.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Where are we? Okay. So next question is about what your favorite lyrics are. Are lyrics like, it's always interesting because I'll have people on here who are like, I don't really pay attention to lyrics. It's not a thing that, are lyrics an important part of a song for you? I guess, depending on the song, but.
Yeah, lyrics are absolutely an important part of the song for me. Although I think like a lot of people, I couldn't tell you what all of the lyrics are to
Sure.
some of the songs that I've listened to dozens or hundreds of times that I would, describe as like a great lyric. And,
Yes.
and yeah, then you would find yourself saying like, oh, well, let me, I actually would have to look up exactly what that lyric is. Yeah. So favorite lyrics,
So,
I don't know. That's a little bit like, yeah, I could have gone a lot of different ways
mm-hmm.
with this. Like, I could drink a case of you and still be on my feet, so like Joni Mitchell, or
Yeah.
just even like the chorus "We Are Born in Flames," like the Red Crayola and Art and Language
Yeah.
song. I chose Mayo Thompson's Horses. Again, it's a little bit, the imprint has so much to do with the age or the place in one's life where
Sure.
one encountered something. So I was really lucky when I was in high school. There was the unofficial historian of Louisville New Wave and Punk was this person, kind of like bookish, slightly hermetic person named Robert Nettlecoff, who is 10 years older than I am. One of his sisters is a year older than I am. And I started playing in a new wave and punk band called the Happy Cadavers, I think when I was a freshman in high school. And Robert all of a sudden appeared and, made his record collection available to me. And so probably when I was like 14 or 15 years old, I remember, just sort of like spitballing and asking him about the 13th floor elevators. And he was like, oh, the 13th floor elevators are great, but, you should really be listening to the Red Crayola. And so, yeah, he gave me a cassette with the God Bless the Red Crayola and All Who Sail with It on one side, and Mayo Thompson's Corky's Debt to His Father on the other side. And I was 15 years old in Louisville, Kentucky. And Corky's Debt to His Father was supposed to come out on this label called Texas Revolution. The only things that they had lined up or that they had announced were Mayo's solo record and a single by Saddle Sore, which was a project of Mayo and Frederick Barthelme. And the label went bust before the records were even distributed. So they pressed them and they just sat in boxes somewhere in Texas.
Jeez.
In Goldmine Records or Goldmine Magazine in 1976, probably the person who started Texas Revolution put in a classified saying, Mayo Thompson unreleased solo record available like $7. And I think Robert Nettlecoff ordered a copy through Goldmine. The Red Crayola had gotten going again around that time, and Mayo joined Pere Ubu not long after that and was producing records for Rough Trade. So anyway, but yeah, Corky's Debt to His Father, whereas the first two Red Crayola records were just kind of like wild, experimental, strange, conceptual projects. Corky's Debt to His Father is really a beautiful, beautiful singer-songwriter record, and I love every song on it. And it's my relation to it is a little bit like the Modern Lovers record in that I think it's so bold. I'm sure Mayo would hate me describing it as bold, but he's just putting himself out there. I love his singing on the album. I won't say this cliche of like, you love it or you hate it. I know people like who are not fond of Mayo's singing, but I just think it's fabulous. And yeah, Horses is such a beautiful song. It's maybe like, it's the catchiest, most, it should have been a top 40 hit.
Right.
And the lyrics, I cited were the first verse. In my heart, if that's where one feels, I shall feel your head lying back sending peals of laughter to ring the world like a bell. I ring to call you here to me. Great. I just got goosebumps reciting it. I have played Horses with the Red Crayola. I've also played it occasionally solo. And there was one night where I shared a bill with David Thomas, who was Mayo's bandmate in Perubu, who I think, they have a kind of complicated up and down history,
right.
They're both really brilliant people. And I think that there's a lot of respect on both sides, but I don't think it worked that well for them being in the same band, or for David to be the leader of the band and Mayo, to be, just like treated like any other band member. But anyway, I closed the set that I did by playing Horses, and David Thomas, whom I was really enjoying hanging out with, but was not. He was kind of like emotionally guarded. Very like funny, very sharp, very intellectual person. And he just like, before I think I'd even like put my guitar down, leaped onto the stage and gave me a big soulful bear hug,
Wow.
After doing Horses. Yeah. And it was like, that was just, that was beautiful.
What a moment.
Yeah. No, it was incredible.
Yeah, this
surprised the hell out of me. I was expecting some kind of like slightly barbed comment, exactly. from him about his former bandmate, and he was just like gushing. He was just like, "Oh, I love that song. Thank you for playing that."
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I came to this record pretty late. I think I only heard it maybe 10 years ago or something.
Yeah,
and it's just it's a flawless record. I love it so much. And I think, and like, I love the Red Krayola, but I think I return to this more than anything from that world. And you could, we'll talk about it more later, but but
it does have that what could have been quality. Cause I know that Mayo told me that, that they put everything into it, it's the best studio musicians from that particular scene. And it was really the idea that this should be a major label record. And if, Randy Newman and Van Dyke Parks and, like name a bunch of other, kind of like literate, eccentric songwriters, could make records for Reprise Records, then why couldn't Mayo Thompson? And like, absolutely, like it should have been on a major label.
Yeah. And it feels like one of those, like the label going bust before it comes out, all that. It's like, one of those sort of sliding doors moments of like,
totally.
What would have happened if but at least we
could have gone in another direction. Yeah, absolutely.
What is the song that you can or have listened to the most?
I'm not sure what the song is that I have listened to the most. Maybe I Want You by Bob Dylan, or maybe one of the original kind of Louisville punk bands like the End Tables and the Babylon Dance Band, just because like I listened to those records over and over and over again. But I think it was just the day that I sat down to answer these, and that I responded to was more like, what can you listen to the most? And I do occasionally get in a loop. I mean, I listen to the same song over and over and over again, being a minimalist, and the fact that songs are way too short, or really good songs are often way too short.
Right.
But the Verlaine's "Death and the Maiden" is just like, I just love this song. Again, like that should be, like one of the most celebrated top 40 hits of all time.
Yeah.
Again, like, don't ask me, to recite the lyrics. I don't know all of the lyrics to it, but that's a song that I've listened to dozens and dozens and dozens of times. I mean, I love a lot of the music from Flying Nun. I was really lucky enough to see the Chills right when Brave Words came out. I saw them on a Sunday night in front of like 30 people at the 930 Club. That was one of those like most disappointing, like, wow, this band is unbelievably good. Like Martin Phillips is a great, great songwriter, and this band is just like killing it. Like, it's a little bit like the first time that I saw the Magnetic Fields, right around the time that Holiday or Charm of the Highway Strip came out, when they were a little bit more of a rock band.
Right.
And I didn't know those songs so well. And just even in a live setting, just being like, it's just like one great song after the next. Like, it's just really like you're in the presence of somebody who is a really kind of rare talent. I felt that way about the Chills. I feel that way about a lot of music on Flying Nun, even as other friends of mine are much more, the kind of like New Zealand pop completists. It's not my like top genre of music, but I love it, and that's an incredible song.
Yeah, I remember reading about Flying Nun again when I was like a high school or whenever, and knew nothing about any of it. And the Verlaines, I think, were maybe the first Flying Nun band I heard.
Yeah,
and it was, and again, I don't know if they're the best or whatever, but they're the one, because it was the first. It's the like one that means they're the band that mean the most to me of that scene. And this song is
incredible music. If somebody's listening to this podcast who hasn't heard the Verlaines, Death and the Maiden, go listen to it 5 times. Treat yourself.
Yes. Okay, what is the sexiest song?
Ooh, Isaac Hayes' Walk On By. Probably, yeah. I mean, maybe Isaac Hayes gets
just
this,
Isaac Hayes
again and again and again. Yeah. So in teaching at Brooklyn College, occasionally have taught this undergraduate pop music and technology class, and one of the class meetings has been on Stax Records. So people all assigned the chapter on Stax Records from Peter Goralnik's book Sweet Soul Music, which is a great book. And in the course of that class meeting, we go from early Stax, knocking it out like Sam and Dave hits, to Isaac Hayes' Walk On By, which is really just it's an album cut. It's such a beautiful arrangement. It's such a great performance. Walk On By is an amazing song, everything about it. It's such a moving song. It's such as a song text, it's a fascinating thing, because maybe the Dionne Warwick version of it, which is incredible,
right?
Also, and just for Isaac Hayes, the torch to be passed to Isaac Hayes to do his version of it. It's wow. I mean, incredible music. What can you say? Just
gosh. And the way it begins, it's with it's got the strings, and then they build up to this crescendo, and then just stop, and then that guitar comes in.
Yeah,
and it's that. It's just, and it's speaking of sexiest, so it's just whoo.
Yeah. Right. It's you got me all hot and bothered, and then you stopped. Yeah.
Oh man!
No, and even that guitar, it just moves back and forth across the stereo image, someone pacing back and forth. I'm sure is the idea. No. So beautiful, and also just him just being the most kind of conventionally masculine, deep voice, and this song about I break down and cry. I mean, everything about it is just so powerful.
I know. Oh, amazing. Okay, we're on to the last 2 questions, the big questions, maybe, I don't know, but what's the song that means the most to you?
So I feel like this is a leitmotif today of coming back to when you heard something. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. I first heard the Sex Pistols and the Clash and Public Image Limited and stuff like that when I was 13 or 14 years old. And it suddenly became clear to me just from fanzines, local fanzines in the racks at local record stores, that there were these Louisville punk bands of people who were all 8 or 10 years older than I am, who had released singles. And so the Babylon Dance Band's My Friend Roger, people know maybe Tara Key and Tim Harris, who are in the band Antietam. Tara is one of my favorite guitar players of all time. And I just, the fact that more people don't know the Babylon Dance Band, to me, blows my mind. They were just I mean, I guess you call them a punk band but not really, because that was sort of the authorizing impulse generationally. I think that's why they picked up instruments, but also the Babylon Dance Band would cover the Dave Clark Five, or
Oh wow.
the Yardbirds, or I don't know. They were just like
Yeah.
they were just like a flawlessly, no, not flawless, effortlessly ass kicking rock band. But they were all or most of them were students at the Louisville School of Art. So they made beautiful flyers, and and really participated in that, upwelling from the underground in Louisville. So I don't know. That's one of these songs. I mean, My Friend Roger I'm thinking of the version that's on the New Accounts compilation 7-inch on Hit a Note Records from 1979. And I mean, yeah, I'm sure I've listened to that 50 times. Maybe I've listened to it 100 times. I totally love it. I'm going to start pogoing just thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of the I'm familiar with Babylon Dance Band until your list.
Yeah.
And I knew Antietam, I knew Cherokee, and normally I'm the type of person, it's like as soon as if I hear something I like, I'm like, oh, I got to know everything about this. But
yeah,
there's only so much stuff. But this is great. This is like, yeah, I really like this, and I love her guitar playing. Like, I really, again, like Antietam, great. And so hearing this band and hearing her play, it was like, this is my kind of thing.
She's just a killer rock and roll guitarist who's developed her absolutely own style.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a rock and roll guitarist like Roger McGuinn was a rock and roll guitarist,
right. Yeah.
Really absolutely developed her own voice and never ever relied on rockist cliches.
Right.
Anyway, she's great. And she's been doing it now for like 40 plus years. So like, yeah, she's a real hero to me.
That's
and
awesome.
Also in just like a super male dominated rock scene or punk scene, just the fact that she was this small woman, playing a Les Paul and just like, taking all comers, just like,
right.
It was amazing.
Well, in this moment, because I'm sure when you sat down, not in this moment, when you sat down to write this, at that time, what would you say is your favorite song?
Yeah, so I came back to what I think is probably my favorite album of all time, Mayo Thompson's Corky's Debt to His Father, and Dear Betty Baby. It's just like, it's simple, but also it's obscure. It's ambiguous. The song is about, a sailor's longing. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like Sloop John B or something like that. It's that it's that very basic, like, I want to go home. What am I doing? Like, I just feel like I've made a terrible mistake. What am I doing on this boat? And it does have a little suggestion of menace, of almost this Billy Budd quality of like, what can sailors do when the captain seems mean? There's this little bit of a quality of like, it's not just that you're biding your time, but that there is some kind of danger. I don't know. It's just, it's about being adrift. It's about feeling distant from people who mean the most to you. And it has a beautiful horn arrangement. And I don't know, everything. I love this song. Everything about it is just like deeply moving to me.
Yeah. And again, if people have one takeaway from this episode, if they haven't heard Corky's Debt to His Father, go listen to that now.
Yeah. I mean, like the Modern Lovers record, that's a record that to me is totally undiminished. I think it's as marvelous as I thought it was 40 years ago. When I heard it 40 years ago, and there aren't a lot of records that I can say that about.
Yeah, when something has this kind of staying power, I mean, and with Corky's Debt to His Father, like I said, it's been 10, 12 years since I first started, but still, like, I can still remember like listening to it for like the first few times and just the thrill of it and being like, oh my gosh, and I still get that. Like, if I put it on, it still gives me that kind of like, and that's no small feat. So, well, this was an absolute delight.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed this as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing it. And everybody, make sure you check out Evening Error when it is out on August 30th.
Beautiful.
And if you're in Berlin or Europe, keep an eye out. Some shows coming up.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you to David Grubbs for taking the time and just, I could just sit there and listen to him talk this could have gone on for like hours and it would have been great. But, everybody's busy and people don't have that kind of time. Evening Air, again, is out on August 30th on Room 40. Click the link in the show notes to listen to David's picks. And that's pretty much it. If you enjoy this episode, enjoyed previous episodes, leave a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. That would mean a lot. If you like it even more than that, for $3 a month or a little more, you can join the patreon.com/Foxy Digitalis. You get the full unabridged episodes and you get extras. You get them a week early. There's a bunch of stuff. I don't know. It's pretty fun over there. And again, everybody who has signed up means the world. Thank you so much. That continued support just really keeps this show and keeps the site going. But hey, if that's not for you, take those few bucks, pick up a copy of the record. Otherwise, until next time, keep on listening to whatever the hell you want.